Hey there, Skullheads. I'm Snags, and today we're talking about Dave Mustaine and Megadeth. The guy who
Good
was,
old
I don't know if you
Megadeth.
heard, but yeah, I don't know if you heard this. He rarely talks about it, but he was kicked out of Metallica.
Yeah, like Roger
Yeah,
Waters' dad dying.
yeah,
Um,
yep, man.
can you put a price on peace? That's the question.
That is the question. Yeah.
So this was our third show on the Big Four, Metallica and Slayer being the other two.
Yep.
Uh, and Snags, at first glance, you can see that Dave's brutal firing from Metallica, fueled that anger and the furious pace of the band. I think Megadeth coming out of the blocks, they wanted to play faster than anybody. Um, what do you think? I hear a massive amount of Motorhead in most of what Megadeth created.
Well, yeah. I mean, Motorhead's a granddad. It's like saying I hear a massive amount of the Stooges in the Sex Pistols. You know what I mean? The the
Yeah,
the Motorhead was the I know the In Wabum thing was a big influence, but Motorhead was kind of the architect of there's a reason why when Lemmy turned 50, all the current members of Metallica dressed up as Lemmy and did a gig as the
right.
Lemmys, right? I mean, Lars was
Well,
president of the Motorhead fan club.
there's a few songs where Dave Mustaine like growl talks through almost almost like in homage to um
Lemmy.
Orgasmatron, you know,
Ah, yeah,
that
maybe.
same
I
kind
guess
of
so, yeah.
style. And I do hear a lot of Motorhead in that, but I say being removed from Metallica was the best thing to happen to Dave. I mean, he could have greyhounded into obscurity, and instead he fueled that betrayal or whatever. It was the coal in his oven, to keep him going, focused on things. But
He could have easily been a, Terry Glaze or a Pete Best, but,
oh, 100, or just where you don't even remember, like the guy that laid the guitar work on that first Hit the Lights, that first version of Hit the Lights,
but yeah, the Jamaican dude or
the
whatever.
Jamaican guy.
Yeah. The,
I mean,
the thing about, the thing about, Mustaine though is, he was Metallica when he was in the band, Metallica had 3 songwriters. If you consider Lars a songwriter because he helps arrange the songs, he has a lot of input in the songs. Um, y You really had 3 songwriters, and really with Cliff, when they got Cliff in there, Cliff wasn't as big of a songwriter, but even he was a bit of a songwriter. So it was,
yeah, he
packed with songwriters,
certainly
that band.
he certainly influenced them classically,
Yeah.
and
Their
some of the
their
orchestration for sure.
orchestration, yeah, and he does have a couple writing credits, and, um, but Mustaine was a there's a list, I think you shared it one time in that group chat with me and Mike of all the Metallica songs that Mustaine had a hand in this the
Yeah,
early years.
I honestly, I think there's like 3 or 4 on the first album and 2 or 3 on Ride the Lightning.
Yeah, so part of the reason for his success, I think, is that unlike Pete Best or Terry Glaze or whatever, he was a prolific songwriter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but, there's an interesting thing. Dave's dad was a very violent alcoholic, and, eventually the family would break up, but they would be plagued by, his dad showing up randomly, and, they would, throw stuff in a U-Haul and move in the middle of the night, um, and so Dave would grow up, like, being terrified that his dad would show up again. Um, there's a story about his dad showing up and dragging him by the ear with a pair of pliers down the driveway uh, back home from somewhere, and
That shit's
it's
intense.
it's fucking crazy. Um, and we've discussed other musicians fueled by tragedy: Joey Kramer, KK Downing. Um, many of us were brutalized in the
John
'70s.
John Lennon.
John Lennon. The '70s were just not safe for kids.
Yeah.
A very different decade. I don't think you see the level of abuse that you saw then, you know?
Well, I think at least with my childhood, it was more neglect. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
which is just as bad, you know? I
open the
think.
door, let the kid out in the morning. I'll see you. Come on back at dinner time. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
yeah, you're on your own,
Yeah.
and that could have led to a lot of things as well,
Yeah.
but, Dave sold pot at 15 in order to get records. He had this girlfriend that worked in a record store, and she would go to his house with records for him. They would fuck, and then he would give her dope, and, so that was kinda, how he got his first copy of Iron Maiden, Motorhead, Overkill, um, Killers, you know. And by the end of the '70s, Dave was a full blown drug addict. Um, and feeding a major ego and just a very intense character. Um, so like right by the late '70s, he had already established himself as somebody who would do coke and weed and pills and alcohol, anything he could get his hands on. And so even before he got started, he was burning the candle at both ends. Um, and So in '81, he basically calls up Lars. Lars tells the story that he answers the phone and basically couldn't get a word in. um, where Mustaine's like, "Yeah, I play guitar. You know, I can be your guitar player," and just the whole 9 yards, just 90 miles an hour. So I feel like where you got that laid back kind of California vibe, here's Dave Mustaine just full throttle and almost joined the band the way David Lee Roth joined Van Halen. Where they didn't.
Kind of insisted on joining.
Well, it's like they just didn't have enough time to really think about it or look for anybody else. He just,
He was
okay, he's in the
apparently
band.
though them live with him on lead guitar was apparently pretty awesome. Like I remember forget where I was reading it. It might have been that book on To Live Is to Die on Cliff Burton that I just read recently. But there were
Yeah.
some people being interviewed and they said they in the early days they would go just to watch Dave play. I mean, he was in their minds like the star of the band,
Well,
his
and
lead guitar playing.
you can see it in Cliff 'Em All. Dave would talk to the audience and would almost play his guitar center stage while James was doing rhythm, and then James would come up and sing. Um, so I feel like even when James was possibly kicking around the idea of them getting a singer, um, Dave kind of just took over as I think where even Dave thought he led the band, that he was the leader of the band, you
Yeah.
know.
I'm sure he
Um,
saw himself as an equal to James anyways. You know, it was kinda Lars
yeah,
started the band, but yeah.
and so in '81 he joins Metallica, but like we've been saying, you've got three egos: Lars, James, and Dave, and that would ignite to create, I think, what still burns to this day in both bands. But I just don't think it would have worked. I really, if you go back and you watch Some Kind of Monster where Lars and James are like ready to swing on each other. Um, I just don't see three alpha males really being able to take control. And you look at Megadeth,
There's
and Dave ran that band, and he would not have been able to.
well, Megadeth. If you look up, I got on Grok today and I just said, "Give me all the lineup changes year by year for Megadeth," and it was like 2 pages. It's Megadeth is basically just Dave Mustaine albums. It's Dave Mustaine. He calls it Megadeth, but there's no consistent lineup. There's guys that were on 5. Marty was on a few albums. Dave Ellison was on quite a few albums, but
Well, yeah, Dave
not
Ellison's a founder, but
but he was not on even like 50% if you can include all the albums up to today. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, Chris Poland and Gar Samuelson.
It's a revolving door, man. I was looking at that lineup list, and just the Dave Mustaine show. It's Megadeth is Dave Mustaine's. It could just be called Dave Mustaine, and really wouldn't be any different.
Well,
It's
a
just
few
Megadeth
things
is a
led
cool sounding name.
to Dave eventually where they just didn't have a choice early on, and this led to Ron leaving Metallica. And we may have talked about this in the Metallica episode, but Dave comes over with this dog, and the dog jumps up on Ron's car and scratches the hood. And James yells at Dave, "Get your fucking dog off of Ron's car!" And James kicks the dog, and
Yeah,
then
that's
they
in
all,
uh, that's in Dave's biography. He talks about
yeah,
that, how that really really pissed him off.
they
You
all
know,
bow
you
up
know.
on each other, and eventually Dave punches James, and then throws Ron across the room. And um, Ron's not a big guy, or maybe just not prone to fight like that. And then another time, Dave pours an entire beer down Ron's bass, and so all this beer goes into his pickups, and then the next time Ron goes to plug in, he got electrocuted, and that was it. He was like, "Fuck you guys, fuck this, I'm out," and that's when they got Cliff.
Well,
So
they had their eyes on Cliff.
yeah.
He knew he was
Yeah, and
on
I
his
think
way
that would
out.
have
They had
happened
their eyes on
anyway, but,
Cliff.
there's
Yeah.
there's a story where Ron says that was really it, the abuse that Dave just seemed to bring. And then, yeah, obviously the road trip across the country in this U-Haul, and they're all, getting drunk and doing shit, but they would stop even in restaurants, and Dave would cause scenes in the restaurants. Um about the food or whatever. And then
Yeah.
they're in the back of the truck, this U-Haul, and Dave says he got some rust in his eye that had fallen down from the roof, and he wanted them to stop and take him to a hospital, and they're like, "We're not stopping." And so just this disgruntlement, and as they're driving across the country, they're just like, this level of violence and alcohol abuse. I just think you had one guy that was a real loose cannon with the other three kind of gelling. And,
Yeah, he
you
was
know,
apparently a an angry drunk. So,
yeah,
that doesn't make for fun times, especially when
no,
the band is.
his anger and intensity, the band just, uh, they couldn't take his level of intoxication. Um, so obviously they wake him up with a bus ticket, throw him in the back of the truck, and drive him to the train station. Probably one of the worst getting kicked out of a band stories I think we've ever heard. At least I
Yeah,
think so.
apparently he wakes up and they're all standing around him and they tell him he's out of the band.
Yeah, you
And
got
then
an hour. Train
he
leaves in
he
an hour,
he
or bus.
doesn't believe them at first, and then they say, "No, we're serious." And then he's like, "What? Where's my when is my plane flight leave? And they're like, "Oh, no, you'll be taking the bus."
Mhm. So that's like a 4-day bus trip. That's hell. It's hell. I've done it,
I'm
from Atlanta to Wyoming, and let me tell you, that's a one-time deal. You don't wanna do that again.
I'm sure he
Uh,
was stewing the whole fucking way too.
yeah, and that's the history is, this flyer on the bus that he gets, one of these biblical flyers that mentions Megadeth, and, he thought that was a good song title, and, then, so he's banging around back in, uh, San Francisco, and, it's where he meets Dave Ellefson as a neighbor. Ellefson's learning the bass line to Run 'Em with the Devil, so it's just that doop, 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 and, Dave, like, throws a potted plant down, telling him to shut the hell up, and, then, Ellefson and, uh, Chris Poland go up and knock on the door, and, they're asking him if he can buy them alcohol and cigarettes and shit. And now Dave's got somebody to party with, so they all hook up, and Dave starts uh, basically forms the band fairly quickly with Gar Samuelson coming in as drummer, and they do Killing Is My Business. Um, but they bang around for like 2 years, and Combat Records basically signs them. And that first album is off and running. A really awful album cover, not what Dave wanted, and it just looks very cheap. I like that album cover looking that way because it just adds to the I don't know, the purity of the thrash metal thing, you know. Um,
Did we skip over Kerry King being in the band for a minute?
no, you can mention that if you know when he was actually in there. I don't
I
believe
think it
he's
was before
on
the
that.
album came out.
Yeah, I think he played with them while they were playing around, and they did not have an
Yeah.
album yet because they
Yeah,
garnered,
yeah.
quite a buzz, in the thrash, Bay City area, and all those bands were hanging out. Exodus, Slayer, um, Testament, they were all, rubbing elbows. And Kerry King did play with, Megadeth, and I believe Dave really wanted him to join, um, Megadeth, and Kerry was like, "Yeah, that's."
Yeah,
So
but he was in it for a while, but he didn't wanna
yeah,
become I guess he was like a temporary guitar player while he
yeah, I
found
think they
somebody else.
they were, it was easy to drive across town and play a gig, you know, uh, which is different than touring everywhere, but um so Killing Is My Business comes out on Combat Records in '85, and almost at the same time they all start doing heroin. And basically that jazz mentality of if you want to be great, you have to do speedballs. And so it's just amazing. You read that biography that Mustaine wrote, and it's just incredible to think that they did all these albums with all these really biting, uh, semi-political lyrics and amazing musicianship. Meanwhile, just strung out on every drug they could get a hold of is just crazy. Um, it's just crazy, but they wanted to be the fastest, ultra furious, break all the rules, bent on self destruction, and that's kind of them banging around the San Francisco area. And in '84, I kind of got ahead of myself. In '84, the demo finds its way to Combat Records, and with all this drug obsession, they did manage to consistently put out these solid thrash speed metal songs, and you know, we were the disenfranchised youth, all starving for louder and faster music. Um, but Dave's unrest with Combat, uh, the record label, and just his anger at Metallica's success, um, they jumped ship and went to Capitol for the second album, Peace Sells, which got them, more of an audience, and obviously to this day they still play Peace Sells, but who's buying? Um, and we used to sing Peace Sells, but who's Brian? Um, Obviously the best was in talk radio when that guy is on the radio, the fan, and breaks into Peace Sells. Uh, Remember that?
I do not remember that. I remember that movie, but I don't remember that
Well,
scene.
in talk radio,
Yeah.
Eric Bogosian brings in a fan off the street, and he's talking to him about the man and the controversy of life and politics. And this kid's just a metalhead. He's just a dirtbag with a blue jean vest and patches everywhere. And the kid doesn't know what to do, so he just breaks into Peace Cells and starts air drumming on the table. And but I remember being in a
Nice.
theater and we just cracked up because again, our music was rarely represented in movies. So it
Yep.
was always you always got a little puffed up when one of your bands got the nod.
Yeah.
But so that's like 85. The band at this point was like Fight Club, all the mood swings and drugs, and um, they would get into fistfights all the time. And you just never knew what the hell was going to happen. And they got a chance to tour with Alice Cooper. And anyone who was around then can remember Headbangers Ball. Um, Megadeth was usually uh, featured in and around it. They were always kind of. I felt like they were being interviewed at least once a week somewhere. Um, Watching Headbangers Ball, and part of their one of their songs was sampled for the beginning of either MTV News or Headbangers Ball. Um, I don't remember what the song was, but they were basically drugs, touring, drug abuse, pawning equipment for drugs. And Poland, Chris Poland and Gar Samuelson, they get fired. You get into summer of '87. Um, Dave's doing crack cocaine. Um, Fires. I think when Jeff Young was in the band for So Far So Good So What, which came out in January of '88. Um, Jeff Young was the guitar player, and Dave accuses Jeff of going after his girlfriend at the time, which was not true. But that was the end of Jeff Young in the band. But he's in that So Far So Good So What with Chuck Baylor, um, and in '86 when Cliff Burton died, Dave wrote "In My Darkest Hour," so that's a tribute to Cliff. That ends up being on So Far So Good So What. Great song. Uh, those first three albums are just solid, consistent, brutal, just 1,000 miles an hour. Um, but by '88, Dave Mustaine does the Rehab thing. Uh, I kind of call it Rehab Part One because he ended up going like 15 times. But by '88, they covered No More Mr. Nice Guy for a movie called Shockwave, um, or The Shocker or something like that. Um, they covered that song for that soundtrack. And they end up, by 1990, they get Marty Friedman and Nick Menza in to record Rust in Peace. which Rust in Peace, a lot of people say it's the greatest thrash record. Personally, I'm uh, partial to Master of Puppets, but Rust in Peace was a huge record for Megadeth. Hangar 18, Holy Wars, Punishment Due. That thing went double platinum, I think. Just a masterpiece. But 4 albums in, they're penniless. They're basically touring to have a place to live. And by being on the road, they're doing all the drugs that they can get a hold of. So, but the big one was Countdown to Extinction. That was a real breakthrough. Debuted at number 2 for them. And what's funny is Countdown to Extinction is Megadeth's 5th album. Meanwhile, Metallica's 5th album is the Black Album. And I told you it debuted at number 2. The Black Album was number 1. And so Dave is still plagued that Metallica was just bigger and seemed to be one step ahead. And Dave's like breaking his ass to get as far as they did by 1990. And Metallica, they'd lost a bass player. Metallica, it was not easy for them, but they seemed to just effortlessly land on their feet, whereas Dave just did not feel like things just aren't fair. But again, everything Dave accomplished, he did himself and didn't have anyone else. Like you said, it was a revolving door. It was the Dave show. And, so if anyone should be proud of what Megadeth had accomplished, even by 1990, it should have been Dave, 91, 92. It should have been Dave, but instead he's worried about what Metallica's doing, So,
As he still is. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
every 6 months to a year, there's a new story out, where Dave's talking about Metallica. It's like, "Dude, let it go, man. Just let it go.
yeah.
Let it go."
It's really bad, and you'd think someone, even his wife, his kids, all his success, um, God damn, dude, don't mention that band again, Um,
Yeah.
so he ODs, in 92, he ODs, he's brought back from death. He literally died. He goes into rehab again. Um, and they become another band trying to stay sober like Aerosmith. Um, by this point, no one in the band is allowed to drink. Um, so, which is, I get it. It's like, look, I need everyone to be sober so I can stay sober, but that's not fair to everyone else.
Well,
Uh,
it's his band.
yeah,
So, all he has to do is hire people from his AA meetings, and then,
right.
he's good to go.
Uh, so in 93, Metallica do a show with Megadeth. Um, and, and that went off okay. Everyone thought, oh, what's going to happen? And, I would like to see more about that gig, uh, obviously Megadeth probably opened for Metallica or whatever, but, it went off. If you listen to Lars and James, it was a healing thing. And I don't think so. I think Dave continues to harbor, anger at where just nothing they do, like, hey, why don't you play a show with us? And that's seen as some sort of underhanded agenda or something.
They all went to see when Megadeth was playing in the Bay Area, like, and Cliff was still alive. They went to at least one of those shows. It's talked about in that Cliff book where they
Yeah.
went to go see Megadeth. There's a big local Megadeth show, and they all went down to see the show and say hi
Yeah,
to
I've seen
Dave.
pictures actually, of
Yeah,
them backstage in some small place.
Yeah, and Cliff's hanging out in the lobby talking to the fans and,
Yeah, yeah.
so it wasn't like, they never wanted to have anything to do with him again, they just didn't want him
Yeah.
in their band,
Right.
and, and, and it goes throughout the history of those 2 bands. I mean, you got the Metallica anniversary show where Dave comes up and plays some songs with him. You got the Big 4 shows, which I'm sure we'll get to. So, there was a lot of interaction, but even after, and I know we're skipping ahead, but even after that Metallica anniversary show, he went out in the press and started saying that him and James and Lars and I think Dave Ellefson were gonna start a super group. He's
Yeah,
going out and
it's like,
with
what the fuck are you doing?
James is retorting through the press himself, "This is why we didn't want him in the band because of this kinda
Yeah,
crap."
just
"Shut up,
shooting this,
Dave."
just stirring the pot, yeah, so, Euthanasia comes out in '94. Euthanasia is a great fucking record, and this is where I feel like it was, "Oh, yeah, another Megadeth record," but some of these later
I I
records
I
after
I really like Countdown to Extinction. I thought that
Yeah,
was a
90
solid
yeah,
fucking album.
it's a
Yeah,
great record,
yeah.
um, and, but, Dave continues to downward spiral, starts shooting heroin, um, and just that anyone would, "Hey, let me just try shooting it," you know? Um, it's just
Yeah,
amazing,
because
but
it's not like there's any warning signs about heroin out there in the world,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, because he's saying, I'm shooting heroin, I'm gonna be the next Keith Richards,"
Yeah,
and
that'll make him as big as the Rolling Stones. That's what made the Rolling Stones were big in spite of, and plus
all of that,
Keith's
yeah.
secret, if you read Keith's book, and I'm not recommending anybody do any of this, but he never shot it into his veins. He would
Yeah,
shoot it into the muscle, which would
yeah,
dilute it, and that was Keith's secret for doing heroin for a long time, which is still a stupid idea.
yeah,
But,
uh,
yeah, it's just
so
not. I'm gonna smoke a joint, have a beer, and, shoot a little
yeah,
heroin. That
I mean,
that doesn't go in this it doesn't go in the same sentence with those other things,
get addicted to groupies crack, you know?
Exactly, like David Lee Roth,
Yeah, uh,
Beer, pot, and groupies.
yeah. So, Rehab number 15, 20 years of drug abuse, he finally gets sober, um, and for what I was able to find is that 15th time in rehab, it stuck. He got his life together. Um, he had 2 kids. Uh, the son's names was Justice, and Lars joked that, Dave named his son after their 4th album, which I thought was, pretty funny.
Justice was the name?
Yeah, Justice is, Dave's son's, name. So, think of it, Justice for All. Um, and then, Cryptic Writing comes out in '97. That's a huge record. Trust is on there. This really is like commercialized metal. It's not a sellout. There's no keyboards, but it's just very, I remember '97, you're starting to hear Megadeth on the radio. And I found that, pleasant, but odd. Like, I'm like, "Oh."
See, I could hear some of that coming in Euthanasia. I thought
Yeah,
Countdown to Extinction's really solid, but Euthanasia, you could hear them getting a little bit more commercially melodic.
yeah, I
Yeah.
I feel like he didn't really shoot himself in the foot with anything. He certainly didn't do, Operation Mindcrime or some bullshit, Silent Lucidity. Um, you didn't see Dave up there crying and playing acoustic guitar, but, there was some melodic stuff. Trust and, Tout Le Mans, um, great, great songs, and you would hear them on the radio, and it was like, "Wow," you know? And you kind of rooted for Megadeth as the underdog, because Metallica just never, they were always on top, I feel, Um, and then,
They were. They're the probably most successful metal band
yeah,
of, after Zeppelin and Black
right. And,
Sabbath and
and,
those guys.
and each move that Metallica made felt like some boardroom, think tank, you know.
That's because it was.
It's hard to say. Just,
It totally was. The
it
the
just
whole
seems so well planned.
yeah, well, I started with the Black Album. Let's make a commercial a mainstream hard rock album instead of
Well, and the
another
way they
Master of
sell the hard
Puppets.
album, the way they sell the black album, we're gonna make shorter songs
Yeah.
that are heavy. And no,
Right,
you're gonna
it's their management, and then the ballad, "Nothing Else Matters." When I heard "Nothing Else Matters," nothing else mattered. I was like, "Okay,
yeah.
I'm done with Metallica for now."
Well,
And
it hurt.
and
It hurt. I took it real hard.
but, but what really capped it, though, was let's all get haircuts and start wearing eyeliner and wearing fashion,
Yeah, and
Versace.
piercing our nipples, the whole,
Yeah,
uh,
they all did it at the same
underbelly of
time.
the '90s. Yeah.
They all did it at the same time. Let's try to convince everybody we're Alice in Chains so we can keep selling
Yeah.
records.
I mean, they took on a U2 sheen, the black hair and the moody photos um but anyway, with Megadeth, Gar Samuelson dies of liver disease in 99. Drugs are bad, okay? Um a lot of heroin, a lot of just for someone to have the chance to tour and do the whole thing that Megadeth did, and to just continue to do all these. I mean, when you're pawning your own equipment to get drugs, that's fucking gross, Um, but so that's the end of the '90s. You get into 2000. They finally do Risk. Marty Friedman just felt that he was basically uh, committing to like 2% of his talent with Megadeth. And, Friedman's a bit of uh, he's a bit stuck up. Um, I think he's retreated to Japan and only does albums in Japan. And was quoted as bitching that Jimi Hendrix just was not that big a deal. And I just don't forgive that. If you're picking up a guitar in the '80s and '90s, it's solely because of Jimi Hendrix and Chuck Berry and Eddie Van Halen, and Tony Iommi and Randy Rhoads. But just Marty Friedman, come on.
Well, the whole story behind Risk too, which is probably their most commercial album, right?
Yeah,
Um, was Lars. This is another Metallica thing. Him reacting to Metallica. Lars told him, "You don't take enough risk with your music." He's like, "Oh, I'll show you. I'm gonna make something that sounds worse than Load, and I'm gonna call it Risk because
yeah,
you told me I don't take enough risk with my music." And so, it's just the soap opera continues there.
yeah. He's so worried about what everyone else thinks, and it should be about what he thinks. I mean, he's his own worst enemy, and it's all right there. But despite all of that, this guy made it. He did it and created this whole thing. Um, so many memories listening to those first four or five Megadeth albums. I kind of got away from them and then got back into them, and I thought, okay, where's the cutoff? And apart from Risk being its own thing, you're like, yeah, so what? These other albums are all there's some great shit all through them. And then Friedman leaves. They get Al Pitrelli, who was a session guitarist. Um, he plays on "The World Needs a Hero," and that I love the song. There's a song in there called "A Thousand Times Goodbye," which I just really related to, where the guy in the song is basically being told by his girl that they should just be friends, and she's seeing somebody else, and just like I totally related to that song after my divorce, where he's like, "You suck, fuck you," um, but she's trying, let's just still be friends, and it's a great song, and in the song, they have like a phone machine, like he's listening to the message, and it's funny while the band's jamming away, and she's like, "I just think we should be friends," and and it's just I just dig that song. But that whole album, World Needs a Hero, kind of an unsung Megadeth album. Um, but Megadeth would go on 16 albums, 6 live albums, 7 compilation albums, 6 DVD releases. There's a final album tour and another Dave memoir on the way in 2026. Um, in Right after Euthanasia, Dave Mustaine, with everybody out of the band and things kind of up in the air, Dave Mustaine got with Lee Ving of Fear, and the band was called MD45, and this came out in 1996. And what it was a play with their initials backwards. So Dave Mustaine was MD, and Lee Ving was VL, which is 45. So it was MD 45 is the how they came up with the band name. And the album was called The Craving. Um, so Nick Menza and Marty are gone. Uh, he forms this MD45, um, and writes all these songs, and has Lee Ving singing and playing harmonica. But it's a heavy record. And then in '04, in 2004, when they're remixing and remastering all these Megadeth albums, um, Capitol gives Dave $250,000 to re-record the vocals with him singing all those songs. And so, unless you have the original CD, which I have, streaming, if you stream uh, The Craving, it'll still say MD45, but it's basically Dave Mustaine guitar, vocals, and the drummer and bass player are still in the mix, but Lee Ving is completely removed from the '04 remaster of The Craving. And
I wonder why that was. Did he want too much money or something?
well, they just wanted that record to sell more, and they thought it would if Dave was the vocalist. And it was a
Interesting.
fucking side project. Just let it be its own thing. And they give Dave 250 grand, which I get it, hey, that's a lot of money. So Dave does it and did not consult with Lee Ving, and Lee Ving was not very happy about it. Um, and then we were mentioning this before, the 2018, Dave Ellefson is already strained with Mustaine, years of drug abuse and shit. But Dave proposes to Dave Ellefson to, hey, let's redo the No Life Till Leather demos. And I think what he was trying to do with that project was to beat Metallica, because Metallica was supposed to release an early years box set, and this would have been a huge release like the other Metallica reissue box sets that they've done for every other album. Um, but things went south with Lars and Mustaine fighting about writing credits. So I think Dave got the idea, hey, I my name is on these songs. I'll put it out uh, as a Megadeth project, and we'll redo all the songs that are on No Life to Leather. Um, Much like Ozzy doing Speak of the Devil, that live album right before Live or Evil Live. Um,
Live
the
Evil,
Black Sabbath thing.
Live Evil.
Live Evil, yeah. I always do the Misfits thing. But yeah, so that was when Dave Ellefson was like, I can't do this. This is nuts. And then there was some type of sex computer scandal, revenge porn with a fan where um, Dave's Ellefson's on the internet, like Zoom meeting with this some live chat with some fan that they knew each other, and they were I guess masturbating in front of each other, but
And she
somebody
was recording it, and he
well
didn't
no
know, or
well
something.
somebody that girl knew leaked it,
Oh, yeah.
and now what they said is when they first met she wasn't 18, but when this went down, this specific thing, she was like 20 or 21. So,
Who knows? It was
yeah.
controversy, though, and Dave cut him loose. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was Dave's, like, "Okay, now I can just boot this fucker out." Um, but so Dave Ellefson forms, Thrash Kings. The Thrash Kings have, one song, and then they've got, like, a live thing with Jeff Young back with, the Thrash Kings playing guitar with Dave Ellefson, and, uh, that's streaming. You can actually hear them do a whole shit ton of Megadeth songs. Um, they're live in Vegas or somewhere, um, and that's on Spotify. But Thrash Kings are coming in October down here. I'm going to go see them at this really small bar down here, so it'll be cool. What sucks is all my Megadeth stuff's in boxes. I don't know where anything is. So, but it'll be cool to meet them. So,
So who all's in that band aside from Dave Ellefson?
the Thrash Kings, it's Jeff Young and or Kings of Thrash. It's Kings of Thrash. Um, and Jeff Young and Dave Ellefson, and then uh, let's see who else is in the band. Uh, So they have a website, kingsofthrash.com, and they're touring right now, calling it the Mega Years, which I think is cool. There's 5 members in the band, um, and their website's just not giving me anything. So let's see if the about. So bassist Dave Ellefson, guitarist Jeff Young. It's just not listing it. Oh, Chaz Leon on vocals and guitar with Fred Acking on drums. And some some nights Chris Poland shows up. So that's kind of cool.
Nice.
So that's almost Megadeth without Dave, which Dave really brings, you know,
He brings the mega to the death,
yeah.
you know?
And my argument is drugs, they're they go all the way back, and they've seen each other at their ugliest with all the heroin and that, so it might be
Right.
best that they not be together, um
Yeah.
but yeah, that's Megadeth. I did a playlist for anybody that's just not familiar with Megadeth. It'll be in the click pit. Just a lot of great songs, a lot of great years. There's some live stuff I threw in there, but Megadeth was definitely an important Bay Area thrash band. I feel they influenced a lot of people, and Dave Mustaine is apart from all the intensity in the early years. I feel Dave is really an approachable, decent cat now. You see him in interviews. He's done a lot for a lot of people. So
Yeah. He landed on his feet after all that crap.
yeah, uh, and I if I knew him, I would stress that he's successful in his own right and should be fiercely proud of that, and not worry so much about what Metallica's doing. But
Yeah, and
you might as well
as we've
go tell Roger Waters to,
I was just gonna say, as we've talked about in our chat convos, that one thing we haven't mentioned is that upcoming collaboration with Roger Waters is gonna be called "I Got Kicked Out of World War II and Metallica Killed My Dad."
yeah,
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 so
uh, heavy, heavy stuff.
heavy, heavy stuff. Yeah.
But, yeah, so
Anyways, so there you have it.
that's part 3. Obviously in, 2014 or something, the or 2010, I think, the Big 4 toured around the world, and, they all got together, did a tour, which is pretty epic. Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax. That's uh, that's a pretty big project, and that was shown in movie theaters, simulcast around the world. I actually went and saw that down here. Um, just epic. It was released very briefly, where you could get the entire uh, DVDs of every song performed. Um, and if you didn't buy that right away, it was gone. And that's not something you're going to see on eBay. Most of the people that have it still have it. That's not something that anybody got rid of. So
Yeah, yeah, it was a big deal.
yeah. But yeah, that was. And they actually came to the states. They played over in California, but it again. Here's Metallica extending an arm, and Dave just not knowing what to do. He's just so bitter. I think even still, and but for some reason, he had cancer. They weren't sure if he was going to sing. There were a couple years there where Megadeth was kind of uh, on the back burner, and he consistently came out. 13 was their 13th record. That was a really good album. Super Collider, another really good record. Um, this last album was really good. Um, so I'm looking forward to seeing what this new album is. And I'm sure he's going to go out with a bang because it's his last. He says this is it. So
Yep, it's called "The End Is Near," so that'll be dropping in the future, and then they're
yeah,
gonna do a farewell tour, and then, he'll come back 5 years later to play festivals like they all do.
yeah. I mean, it'd be nice. It's just sad that all these bands are crapping out on a Slayer retired, but now they've come back. So
That's what I'm
you
saying.
just you don't know what
I
the
I I Very, very rarely are these farewells. Even Kiss, they're doing some unmasked shows in Vegas coming up at a Kiss Cruise Las Vegas. There's going to be 2 shows, one
Well,
acoustic,
we
one electric.
there's your
Yeah.
Kiss reference.
I know,
It's
but I'm just saying.
uncanny. It's uncanny
I
how
know every episode, but I'm
Kiss
saying
Alive
even
'50 today.
the end of the road tour that was their second farewell tour. You know, the first one
Yeah,
was
for
in
3 years.
2000. Then they do the end of the road tour, and now they're doing more shows. You know, not
Yeah,
with makeup, but it's still
yeah.
Kiss. So, they
But
have
Kiss Alive turned 50 today,
there you
September
go.
10th.
Gotta mark that. Gotta mark that. Yeah.
Crazy. You gotta go throw that record on. Listen to
Break
Peter
out a
Criss's
little
drum solo in 100,000 years.
swig some vodka and orange juice.
Orange juice.
How many y'all out there like a little vodka and orange juice?
Oh,
Paul
boy.
Paul Stanley doesn't even drink vodka.
No.
Fucking hilarious.
Like a taste of alcohol! Anyway, so that's Megadeth. We'll certainly do Anthrax down the road. Um,
Yeah, anthrax will happen.
but you know, Megadeth, short and sweet, but we really covered everything.
Yeah,
You
well, that's
can
just an
you
hour. That's a typical episode.
yeah,
1 hour.
you can go on YouTube and check out their behind the music is there. That's an hour show. A lot of good footage in there. Um, and read Dave Mustaine's book. It's called Mustaine. And but
Yeah, I
it
checked that
is
out from the library like 2010 or something like that. It was definitely entertaining.
it is amazing how much drugs they were doing, yet they consistently put out top shelf records in comparison to what was out currently. I feel they
Yeah.
were above a top shelf over all the schmaltz of the 90s, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Once they
A
got
lot of
past their risk and all that crap.
there's a lot of stare at your shoes, syrupy, goth bullshit in the 90s. Um,
Not to
and Megadeth
mention,
just
not to mention grunge light like Creed and,
oh,
uh,
yeah.
what was that? There was some other
Stone
band that
Temple
was
Pilots,
yeah, there's another band that, I can't remember their
Days of the
name.
New.
Days of the New. That was the other one I was thinking of.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just grunge light.
Oh,
Even Godsmack, the Godsmack's probably the best of the grunge light, but they were still grunge light.
yeah, well, their first 3 or 4 were heavy, and
Yeah,
their
they really
their
wanted to be
last 2
Alice.
or they wanna be Aerosmith or something. Their last 2 are
Well,
terrible.
well, the early stuff was very clearly they wanted to be Alice in Chains, even
But they were
coming from the
heavy, though. They
coming
were
from the band name.
yeah, they were definitely heavy. But,
Yeah.
anyway, that's Megadeth, kids.
Yep. Peace out.
Deuces. Alright.